So, one of the very common advices or ideologies I've come across over many years that have been passed down to women is this idea of just find a man you can grow to love. Okay? And I'm gonna be real with y'all, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. And I've examined this approach, this mindset in tons of relationships, tons of marriages. And I'm here to tell you, it really doesn't work. Now, we first need to understand people qualify what's working in different ways. For some individuals, simply being together over a very long period of time it's working. To me, longevity does not equal success. There are plenty of people who have been together a very long time and their marriages are very miserable. Now, the reason why that, of course, is a problem by itself for the two people involved, because I cannot call something a success if two people are very unhappy, or at least one person is extremely unhappy in the situation. However, if we go beyond that, because there are some people who will say, well, it's not about us as adults at that point, it's about the children if children are involved. But miserable marriages produce, I'm going to use the word and I'm using it respectfully, dysfunctional children. When I say dysfunctional, at the very least, maybe not dysfunctional in their day-to-day lifestyle, but typically dysfunctional in their future relationships. And it creates a cycle of very distorted understandings and perceptions of what relationships should be, what marriage should be, which ends up having a lot of consequences. Now, we won't get too deep into that aspect of it, because again, some people may just want to see it differently. So we can agree to disagree if you're one of those individuals who views it differently. However, I'm going to lay out for you why this whole growing to love him does not typically work. There's exceptions to every rule. Somebody might say, well, I know a couple and it worked for them. Great. I applaud them if it did. That's not usually the case. That's not the norm. Those are rare exceptions. And again, if we dig deeper, sometimes what we think is an exception ain't what we really think it is. But again, let's get into why this growing to love a man does not work. And one of the big reasons why it does not work, and this is assuming this is part of the growing to love him process, is that without attraction, without a strong enough attraction, you as a woman won't be able to sustain desire. Okay, so what do I mean here? A lot of these situations of growing to love them start with the fact that there's not really a strong attraction there. He may be a great guy. He may bring a lot of wonderful things to the relationship, right? But you're just not really attracted to him. Now, a lot of people in society will tell you, well, looks matter less to women. And that may be true in a general sense. And true in the sense that women, there's a lot more than the physical appearance for many women, not all, because some of y'all are like, nah, I need the looks. But for many women, there's a lot of non-physical attributes that can make the attraction strong or stronger, okay? However, it's only so much that the non-physical can compensate or overcome what may be lacking physically. Now, some women may feel, well, there's nothing wrong with being able to look past the physical or look past the lack of attraction to be with a man, especially when he's a good man. And I understand why you would think that. But again, here's why it's a problem. When you're not genuinely attracted to this individual, regardless of how they look, because I'm a firm believer, it's about attraction, not necessarily looks. And so that you understand the difference in case anyone's confused, looks is about like they have to be, it's about the specifics about how they present themselves. Maybe they have to be this tall, they have to be this frame, they have to look like this. Okay, that's a focus on looks. Attraction is just you just find them attractive, and that can sometimes fall outside of your typical type or fall outside of the box that you may have desired. There's plenty of women who may have desired a very tall man, but fell in love and are very attracted to a man right now who's only a couple inches taller than them, right? And that they didn't see that coming, but it happened. That's attraction at play. So attraction to me can't be overlooked, shouldn't be overlooked. Looks, different story. But the reason why you should not look past the attraction, especially in these growing to love a man situations, is because ultimately we have to be real with ourselves as individuals, as human beings, and understand that attraction does fuel our action. Okay, let me say it again. Attraction does fuel, or at least does help fuel, our action. When we are attracted to someone, and more specifically our partner, we are more likely to be loving, affectionate, respectful, all these things. It doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It doesn't mean there aren't other things that can get in the way. However, there's a greater chance, or it makes it easier to be those things, which is why, like, there are studies that show how, like, very attractive people have it easier in the workplace, okay? Because that naturally motivates or inspires or gives people a little bit more fuel to treat you a certain kind of way. And that does play out in a relationship. But when there is no attraction, it becomes very easy to start being less affectionate and just to not even have that desire, okay? To not speak to them as respectfully as you would otherwise. I know some of y'all like, nah, I wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, over time, it can happen. I've seen it happen in tons of marriages and relationships. And just the overall way you treat them, the overall way you show up for them, all these things can be impacted by attraction. But even more so importantly, in the context of being in a relationship with a man and married to a man, is your sexual desire for him. All right? Because at the end of the day, sexual needs, the man's sexual needs are very important to him and what he's going to need in a marriage, right? And shoot, in today's world, in a relationship, but we're not getting to that. We're just saying, well, let's focus on the marriage part, since that's a lot of people's long-term goal, main goal. That's what's going to be his need. And when you are not genuinely attracted to him, you're not going to want to show up for him as much intimately in the bedroom. All right. And if you were to survey long-term relationships, marriages, so on and so forth, and ask the men what are one of the things that, they're unhappy about, one of the main things you're going to hear is lack of intimacy. Plain and simple. Now, there are tons of reasons why that can be the case. And I understand those who will make the argument saying, well, life comes at you, you got kids, responsibilities. I get that. But at the foundation of it, to walk into a relationship or a marriage with a man you're not really attracted to, thinking you're going to somehow be able to make this work over the long run, is very unrealistic for most people. And I feel the need to mention this, kind of hit my spirit. I think it's even more difficult in today's world. I think back in the day, this might sound really bad, but I'm going to tell you my genuine thought right now. Back in the days, it may have been easier for a woman to deal with a man she wasn't attracted to, because she did it in the days of old. There wasn't the internet. There wasn't all this stuff going around where you can see all these different people and all these different things. Therefore, there was less to compare your partner to, okay, on both sides. And so that may have made it easier to sweep it under the rug, especially if your friends or family in the neighborhood all with unattractive men too. So it's like, oh, we all in the same boat, no big deal. But in today's world, where you can constantly see what you are attracted to at the click of a button, at just any moment you want, that and it creates that comparison for a lot of people. That makes it even more difficult for many. Maybe not for all of you, but for many. And so there's so much we can unpack with this, but ultimately, and I know some of you might say, because there's nothing that just kind of hit me, looks fade, right? The looks fade. It's not going to be there forever. You have to love the person. Absolutely. But just because looks fade doesn't mean you ignore attraction. And I would argue that even for those couples who they grow old together and yeah, they don't look the way they used to look, it doesn't mean they lost their attraction to each other. There was still things there that allow them to be attracted to each other, okay? That is the key. Can you at least say that? It's okay if you can say, this man ain't that cute. Cool. Everybody don't have to be with a good-looking, cute man, whatever. But can you at least honestly say you are attracted to him? And if you're not, and thinking, well, you can grow into it, nah. Again, there's so much more I want to say, but we got other points we got to make. All right, so I had a lot to say on the last one, but let's keep this thing going. Another reason why growing to love a man is typically not going to work is because he may not be wired to become what you want. So what I'm saying here is that many women, in the idea of growing to love this man, they are basing that off of his potential, all right? And what they feel they see in him and what they believe he can become, and maybe they feel with the right push, with the right motivation, you know, that they'll be able to pull this out of this man or support him on that journey, and then everything will be good, all right? The problem is, I say it all the time, sometimes potential is a figment of your imagination, all right? And what you see in him, he does not see in himself. And not in the sense of he just needs to fix his vision and then he'll get it. And there might be some situations where, yeah, a man just needs somebody to believe in him and that can ignite that fire in some situations. Those are rarer situations. But what I'm saying when I say he doesn't see it in himself is he doesn't see it because that's just not who he is. All right. And you are hoping or banking on something that may never come to pass. And what will happen is, in the process, what you typically find is you'll have a situation where this woman is essentially trying to, in many ways, drag him to this next level of life, right? And he's kind of going, kicking and screaming. Maybe not, literally, but that's what it feels like. There's resistance on his side. And because there's resistance, right, whether it be flat out direct resistance or just him lacking certain motivation or drive or whatever the case may be, you as a woman who's in that situation, you end up overburdening yourself. You end up having to do a lot for him, which can create resentment, which can create frustration, which can create burnout, okay? And so, and it also can create an unhealthy attachment because you have a lot of women who invested so much in this potential, in this what they thought could happen, that now it's hard to walk away without seeing a return on that investment. All right. And so now you're holding on to validate the effort, the time, the energy that you gave, and ignoring the fact that this is just not the guy. He's just not built for that. And I really believe, again, some people may see it differently, but I'm a firm believer that, some people will say you have to decide who you want to be in life. And I believe, no, you have to figure out who you are and then determine how you're going to optimize that, maximize that, walk in your purpose that God gave you. But you can't just be whoever you want to be. I know we say that you can be whatever you want to be. Nah, not really. not really. Okay. And it's not to kill dreams. It's not to say don't aspire for big things. But I think those big things have to be within who you are created to be. Because even if in scenarios, so let's bring it back to this guy. Let's just say as a woman, because there's been these situations where the woman successfully was able to get this man to that next level. But a couple things could happen. One, he's there, but he's not happy there. All right. So it's almost like, let's say you push a man to become the CEO of a company, but he hates being the CEO. He was so much happier when he was in that position that, yeah, it may have made him less money, may have been less prestigious, but he had much more peace and happiness there. You may love him being the CEO. He hates it. All right. So that ends up having its own repercussions, its own issues that stem from there. Or you have the other scenario where you successfully transform this man or upgrade this man, and then he leaves you for someone else. Because from the beginning, this was not a relationship made off of or created based off alignment. It was based off of trying to get to a certain place with him. And when you get there, you don't really know what's going to happen next. Okay? Now, again, it isn't to say it's never, ever potentially worked for someone. But you got to be very careful with that. And I would argue for every one situation of success, I could show you 1,000 more where it failed miserably. All right. Maybe not 1,000, but you get what I'm saying. The gap in success versus failure is huge. So ultimately, you've got to be able to understand, and I'm going to talk more about this at the end of the video about what you should do instead of trying to grow to love him, even if you see potential, even if you think maybe the attraction can change and things of that nature. And I do want to mention something else about the attraction in a second, but just understand you've got to better evaluate who this man is, rather than who you're trying to make him be. And you have to ask yourself, can you be happy with who he is? All right. Now, real quick, because it popped in my head about the attraction, I just want to say this. If the attraction is something like he lacks fashion, his fashion style's a little off, good looking dude, but he doesn't know how to dress, right? That's something where, okay, it's easier to work with, but even then, it's only easier to work with if he's a willing participant, okay? But outside of that, different story. But anyways, let's keep going to the next one. All right, so now, here's another reason why growing to love him typically does not work, is because your presence may actually stunt his growth. Now, this is, again, based off the idea if you're growing to love him is based off of potential, him still needing to get to a certain place, things of that nature, okay? And a lot of people just automatically think, oh, well, with the right woman by his side, he will be able to get to that next level, right? It can all work. What people do not consider is that, one, right woman, there's a difference between you being a good woman and you being the right woman for this man and him being the right man for you, okay? You may be an awesome woman. You may be a woman who is fully capable of taking whatever a man has been working on and multiplying it and making it extra amazing. That doesn't mean you can do it with this guy, okay? That doesn't mean you are the right fit for him and vice versa. So you got to understand that when you're viewing yourself as just the right woman, as in like some good woman, it's two different things. But what doesn't get considered by a lot of people is that for a lot of men, and I would argue maybe even the majority of men, they are driven by what they have to do to receive what they desire to receive, okay? So basically they're going to do what they got to do to get what they're trying to get if they believe it can be achieved. Because if they don't believe that it can work anyway, then they might just give up hope. So what I'm saying is, some men, it's almost like there's a joke, I think it was Dave Chappelle who made it a long time ago on a comedy special. And it was basically like, men get nice things because women like nice things. If men could have lay down with you in a cardboard box, as in get it on with you, a lot of them would. Like they only get the house because they know you want to see a nice house and that makes you more comfortable. And so when you get with a man who is not self-motivated, doesn't have his own passions and dreams, and he isn't actually doing what he needs to do for himself, and even in some cases where he's doing some things, you being there could make him very comfortable. Because now he has you. If in his mind, all right, I make decent enough money, and some dudes, they could be broken, they'll still be like, oh, I'm good now. But let's just say he's making decent enough money, may not be what you think he should be making, what you hope that he will make. But to him, it's, I'm good, got the money, I got my girl, I'm cool. I don't need more than this. I got food on my table, I'm fine. He now has lost his motivation to push further. And some of that is because he has not reached a certain level or maturity or development in his life that now allows him to understand what he needs to do, regardless of whether there's a woman in his life or not. As a man is growing up, many, again, in the early stages are very driven and motivated by women. And it takes some men a while before they realize, listen, regardless of women, you got to figure yourself out. You got to do things for you. You got to make something of yourself, okay? If he hasn't hit that level on his own and you jump in before then, thinking that I can now help him and do better, it's going to... I wish we could do, if I did a call-in show one day, I can almost guarantee if I made this the topic, there'd be thousands, millions of women who could call in and testify and say, yes, this happened to me. I got with him when he was at this stage of life. I thought he could be better and he got comfortable. He got lazier. He stopped trying. All right. Despite all her efforts to push him further along. You got to understand, again, it's about evaluating this man's character, who he really is, and not what you have in your imagination. Okay? What you're fantasizing it could all be. And understand that, yes, it may require you, if you see potential, you see this guy who can become more, right? Rather than getting with him in a relationship, you're essentially rewarding him. It's like the analogy I love to use. It's if a job said you have to have a master's to work here, but we're going to hire you anyway while you can have time to go get your master's on the side. If getting that master's is hard work, or you're not truly as motivated by it, or you only wanted the master's to even get the job, and now you got the job, there's a very good chance you won't go get the master's. Until you actually feel the heat of, oh, this job is going to fire me. Okay? So it's like if you're already being incentivized, you're less likely to do the work. So, but if that job said, hey, we like you, you're an amazing candidate. If you do get your master's, we are willing to hire you. If you want that job, you're going to go get that master's. Well, guess what? It's the same thing with a man. If you think he has this greatness okay, cool. Let him know, I like you. I think you're amazing, but I need you to reach a certain place of stability in your life before we can join together. And if you do that, we can make it happen, right? As long as you're still available, hopefully. But you know what I'm saying? But until then, ain't no in between. Because if you start doing the in between, you can throw things off. So be mindful. All right. So now, before I continue with another reason, just want to mention to you real quick, I'm always doing different events throughout the years, different tours. There's so many I can name right now, but because I don't know when you might see this video, I just want you to go to my store, stephanspeakshop.com, and click on live events and see if I'm coming to a city near you. I would love to meet you guys at my events, and I want you to experience these things and just the overall energy and the information and just all that comes with it. So again, go to stephanspeakshop.com and click on live events and see if I'm coming to a city near you. Now, to keep this thing going, another big reason why growing to love a man typically does not work is because you end up overlooking red flags, thinking or hoping it will change. All right. So again, what we have to understand is at the foundation of the behind the premise of growing to love him is essentially saying, I recognize something is not there, but because there's enough good that I see, I'm going to just try to work with this, and in time, feelings will grow stronger and change and all these things, okay? And for many people, those things that are not there are actual red flags. But sometimes, because the red flags are so common to what a woman has experienced or other women experience, they sweep it under the rug. So for example, let's say he's not great with communication. His communication is horrible. Because a lot of women have experienced that, it becomes very easy for some to just rationalize as, well, this is how every man is, so I'm not going to stress that. I'm going to just keep it moving and deal with it. But then, like I always say, the same red flags you ignore in the beginning are the same red flags that end your relationship. That same poor communication that you saw initially is the same thing that ends up ruining and ending your relationship. Now, maybe it's not bad communication. Maybe he's a great communicator, right? But there's some other issue. And either way, growing to love him is saying to myself, oh, you know what? Maybe that's not that big of a deal. Maybe that's not that serious. And you'll have people in your head, maybe other married people, other people in relationships, friends, family. And I have to say that you got to be careful, because though their intentions are good, sometimes those friends and family are encouraging you to sweep things under the rug because they just want to see you in a relationship. They want to see you get married. They want to see you have babies. And they feel like, okay, she has a good chance here, and she hasn't had much success recently. So you know what? I don't want to nitpick. Let's just ignore that issue, right? It's not that much of a problem. And let's encourage her to push forward. And then again, it's that same problem that ends up creating a bigger issue, okay? Or you'll have some situations where if someone is dealing with that exact same issue. So for example, let's use the poor communication. Let's say you have a couple, friends of yours, and her relationship involves horrible communication. So, but she stays. For various reasons, she has chosen to stay. So now when you tell her about your concern, you think she's going to be like, nah, you should leave? She's not going to tell you to leave when she's not leaving. She'll probably rationalize to you, oh, you know, that's how these men are. You know, it reminds me, like, so many stories I would hear where a woman would get cheated on, and their mother or their aunt would say to them, well, you know, this is what men do, and boom, 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 boom. And it just shows how, like, if that's what that person has gone through and has accepted, whether someone agrees with that mindset or not, I'm just pointing out the psychology of, if I have dealt with it and I have chosen to move past and accept it, then my ability to tell you otherwise is severely hindered. I am more than likely going to encourage you to deal with it as well. Again, right or wrong, fair or not, that's just the psychology behind that. But again, whatever the red flag is, you can't ignore it. And there's a lot of times where a woman, you like this man a lot, and you don't address the red flag because deep inside you know that addressing it will give you clear answer that you have to let him go, that this isn't going to work. And because you want to hold on to the belief that this can work, you want to hold on to how good this feels right now, even if some of that good feeling is all in your head, you choose to ignore. You choose to sweep it under the rug. Now, I don't say this to you to beat you up, make you feel bad, or anything like that. We all make mistakes. I tell you this to be aware so that the mistake is not continuously being made. Or for those of you who have already are in the situation right now, to awake, because I'm going to be real with y'all. I spoke to someone earlier today who's on the verge of divorce. And when we went down the whole timeline and discussed everything, it was clear from day one where all the issues were. So I see so often how the ignoring of this, what it ends up being anyway. It's almost like we're just delaying the inevitable, but in delaying the inevitable, we're creating or allowing a situation that can invite more problems, more issues, more difficulty, right? And I want to at least help minimize that as much as possible. So yes, ignoring red flags is very common when trying to grow the love of a man, and that's why I don't think you should do it. All right, so, you know, this is one of those videos where I had a few more, but it looks like we're going to need a part 2 for this as well, okay? But let's get to another point that I need to make. Another reason why growing to love a man does not work is because, are you actually growing to love him, or are you learning how to tolerate him? All right. Now, I know some of y'all was like, ooh, because I know it hit some of y'all when I said that. And you know how real that is. The reality for many people is that it's not love that's occurring here. It's learning how to become conditioned to their presence. It's learning how to tolerate them. It's learning how to just accept. It's becoming comfortable with settling in many cases, okay? But it's not actual love there. And let's go even further. For some, it's not even born out of love. It's born out of fear. It's born out of, well, you know what? I don't have any better options right now. It's born out of, I'm not getting any younger right now. It's born out of, you know what? I'm tired of my friends and family asking me when I'm going to get a relationship or when I'm going to have kids. It's born out of all these different things, but not love. And so when it's born out of these different things, you certainly aren't going to grow to love him because that was never really there. And so you end up learning how to tolerate this man, but everyone has their limits. It seems very doable initially, okay? And for many people, they were able to get past year 1, year 2, maybe year 3, year 5, whatever. But there comes a point where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. This isn't working. And the reality was it was never working. You just kept looking the other way, pushing past it, kept going. You didn't like it, but you just, you try to find the good things to focus on. For some people, those good things became their kids. Once they had the kids, they were able to focus so much energy on the kids and the blessing of I have my kids and I love my kids that it helped them tolerate or help them deal with the reality of I don't really like my partner. I'm not in love with my partner. All right. But I like what we have here, this family and this home and where we live and maybe even the perception of others that we're this great family. That some people feed off of that too. But how long can you live in that alternate reality, so to speak? Right? Maybe not an alternate reality, but you know what I'm saying? How long can you distract yourself from what's really going on? And for many people, at some point, it catches up to them. And this is why, one of the reasons why you have these situations, and you hear it on the internet where people talk about a lot how 70% of divorces are initiated by women. And some people will make this argument, oh, you see, these women can just get up one day and I'm bored, so I want to leave you. Or get up one day and no longer want to, be committed in a relationship. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and say that's never happened like that. I'm skeptical, but I'm not going to say it never happened like that. But that's not what's going on in most of these situations. That woman's been considering it for the longest. It's been lingering in her for Lord knows how long. She's been battling with herself, going back and forth, probably talked to some people. And they might was like, nah, you just keep it going. You're going to be all right. Just keep pushing through. And she, all right, suck it up and just kept it. But at some point, you can't suppress it forever. And that tolerating runs out. And if it doesn't run out with officially saying, I'm done and I can't do this, it runs out because now your attitude is different. The way you talk to him is different. Your ability to be intimate with him is gone. And so so now those things start creating their own issues, but it all stemmed from there was a disconnect from the beginning. There were things not there from day one. And you were never really into this man. So again, I understand how tempting that can be depending on your situation and the things that people put in your head. And I understand that you see these other examples of people claiming, well, that's what they did and it worked for them. But again, you got to look deeper. When they say it worked for them, what does that look like? Did it really create a happy relationship with them? And again, there's exceptions to every rule, but for the majority, it's not the case. So what I want you to understand is this. If you see potential, if you see that if you really believe you can grow to love a man, then grow to love him while you're his friend. All right. The problem is getting romantically involved with this individual before they have reached a point. And again, it doesn't mean we can't push, strive for more and we're going to always be growing and things of that nature. But Is he at a level right now? You have to ask yourself, if this man does not truly change as of today, can I still be happy with who he is? If the answer is yes, all right, cool. If the answer is like, nah, something's going to have to change. All right, but then let's wait for those changes to occur. And we wait while in friendship, not getting romantically involved, because that's where it gets messy. That's where now it becomes a struggle to not go deeper and deeper and deeper. And now it's all the things I mentioned earlier. Maybe he's not reaching that potential because he never had it in him. Maybe he loses motivation because now he has you in his life. You know what I'm saying? Maybe there's other red flags because you were focused on this one. There were some other red flags you ignored that were even bigger issues. There's so many different possibilities. But the bottom line is, you want to wait till he gets to a certain level. I'm not talking about he has to be, nobody's perfect. We're not talking about perfection. We're not talking about some man becoming rich. We're talking about him getting to a level good enough to where you two can truly be happy with each other, are in alignment with each other, and then can truly grow together with each other. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on highly insecure men will use these 5 toxic phrases. Sometimes that insecurity is being hidden behind this fake confidence, so to speak, this fake tough guy act. So you don't